Let's dive right into this explainer, shall we? Today, we're going to unravel a really fascinating mystery about how we process truth, lies, and data. We're looking at Ryan McLean's relational epistemology, and let me tell you, it's a brilliant framework. It absolutely changes how we look at the information swimming all around us. So, we start with this massive, kind of mind-bending mystery. Since you are literally trapped right here, right now, listening to this, how do you actually know anything about the past, or the future, or distant places? Think about it. You aren't standing in ancient Rome. You aren't watching dinosaurs roam the earth, and you certainly aren't inside someone else's head. And yet, you claim to know things about all of those realities. So, how is that actually possible? Well, let's establish our foundation here, because if you aren't physically in ancient Rome, everything you know about it has to reach you through clues in what we call the here now. See, you are always in exactly one place. You don't live in yesterday. You're right here, in the present point of actual reception, encountering reality. Everything else, anything not immediately in front of you, has to travel across what McLean calls epistemic distance just to reach you. Now, these little clues, McLean calls them witnesses. Picture muddy footprints on your kitchen floor. Those are traces in the present, pointing backward to, say, a swamp monster child who just ran through the house. It's like a giant puzzle. When a scientist looks at a fossil, or a doctor examines an X-ray, or even when you just glance at a text message on your phone, you are looking at a present trace. It's a physical thing right in the here now that relies on something from the past or somewhere else entirely. These witnesses are quite literally the only way we ever reach beyond our immediate present.
Moving into Section 1, the shortest faithful path, tracing clues back to reality.
So how does human reason actually follow these clues? Well, reason isn't just about finding the absolute fastest connection. What you really want is the shortest, faithful path, one that actually tracks reality, not one that invents a shortcut and drives you straight into the ocean. It's exactly like using a GPS. You don't just want the shortest geometric line if it completely ignores the roads and drops you off a cliff, right? You want the path that faithfully connects where you are to where you need to be. In epistemology, truth is exactly that. It's path fidelity. It's a reconstruction that perfectly preserves the real dependency between the witness and what it's pointing to. This brings us to the epistemic chain. This concept beautifully illustrates how reason reconstructs that dependency from a present trace back to what it witnesses, ultimately finding truth, or objective error if the path gets distorted. Notice how the sequence flows. You're in the here now, you receive a trace, you recognize it as a witness pointing beyond itself, and then you reconstruct the path. If your reconstruction preserves the reality, boom, you've found truth. But if you take a wrong turn, invent a connection, or follow a broken instrument without realizing it, you've hit an error. And fixing that mistake isn't just about changing your mind, it's about repairing that path. As the great Sir Alfred Hitchcock once observed, ideas and evidence come from everything. And that brings us to a massive plot twist in our little detective story. What happens when the clue is broken? What happens when the witness is lying to you, or hallucinating, or just plain wrong? That takes us to Section 2. Every witness witnesses something. When clues fail. Okay, before you just throw away a quote-unquote bad or lying witness, we have to stop and ask, what is it actually witnessing? Let's take kids. Kids are basically tiny chaos poets. So a child claiming there's a monster under the bed is totally wrong about zoology, sure, but they are perfectly truthful about their own fear and vulnerability. If you simply check under the bed, declare there's no monster, and walk away, you've committed what we call an error of erasure. You entirely miss the actual truth that child was witnessing. And this applies everywhere. A lie in a courtroom fails as a factual report of an event, but it perfectly witnesses the liar's fear, or a hidden pressure, or maybe a desire to protect someone. The witness hasn't stopped witnessing. We've just been asking it the wrong question. So when we break down messy witnesses, things like lies, dreams, and delusions, we start to see that they haven't stopped witnessing at all. We've just mislocated their actual object. Look at how this applies to something like a memory error. A person might get the historical details completely wrong, but their memory perfectly reveals how their mind works and what actually matters to them. Or think about a dream. It might not describe the outside physical world, but it perfectly witnesses the dreamer's inner imagination. Even a broken scientific instrument that's giving a totally bogus temperature reading is actually giving a perfectly true reading of its own broken sensor. Literally everything witnesses something. Let's look at Section 3, From Science to AI, the Universal Application. Now, you might be thinking this invariant structure of interpreting witnesses sounds like an abstract philosophical game, but it's not. It is the practical, everyday foundation of how we navigate the world. Whether it's a scientist calibrating a thermometer, a lawyer cross-examining a contradictory witness, or a programmer debugging an AI, they are all doing the exact same thing, reconstructing paths. A historian doesn't just toss out an ancient myth because there are no literal dragons in it. No way. They study the myth because it witnesses the core values and fears of that ancient culture. A lawyer doesn't just throw out a contradictory witness. They cross-examine them to find out why the path is distorted. Was it coaching, trauma, just confusion? Reconstructing that path is the very definition of finding the truth.
Let's make this super concrete. Take an AI hallucination. It isn't just a funny little alternate universe. It's a generated path that completely fails to faithfully preserve the dependency to the real records it's supposedly witnessing. When an AI makes up a historical fact, it isn't just generating a false string of text. It's presenting an output that claims to be a witness, but it has literally invented a shortcut that does not exist in reality. Recognizing objective error means identifying exactly where that dependency path broke down.
Moving to Section 4, the ultimate ground. From muddy footprints to the logos. We've traced muddy footprints and we've calibrated AI, but if we keep asking why honest clues can lead to real truth at all, we rapidly escalate from finite disciplines like science all the way up to objective standards. If reality is intelligible all the way down, it requires a unified, necessary intellect. The source text argues this out step by step. If we admit that real, objective errors exist, then there simply must be a standard of truth that transcends just our human opinions or what's useful to us. That standard requires an objective judgment. And because truth cannot contradict itself across totally different domains like science, history, and law, that ultimate judgment must be unified. The paper argues this naturally, inevitably points to a single, unified mind behind reality. And Christian revelation identifies this underived ground of judgment as the logos. This means the universe isn't built on random nonsense, it's built on a profound, meaningful mind. The source material draws a direct line right here, noting that natural philosophy reaches the concept of a necessary intellect, while Christian theology specifically names this the logos. In this framework, every single time reason successfully follows a faithful path from a clue to the truth, it is actively participating in the divine order that holds reality together. It means no clue, and honestly, no person is ever truly discarded or meaningless when placed in their proper relation. To wrap up this explainer, I want you to think of a bad witness or a glaring contradiction in your own life right now. Before you just throw it away, I challenge you to look closer. Ask yourself, what is the actual reality this broken clue is pointing to? What is it truly witnessing? Because asking that question might just uncover a truth that is a lot deeper and a lot more fascinating than a simple true or false.